Michael Jackson, the name alone evokes images of dazzling performances, groundbreaking music, and an iconic moonwalk that defied gravity. He wasn't just an artist. He was a global phenomenon, a force that shaped pop culture in ways no one else ever had. But beneath the bright lights, behind the electrifying performances and million-dollar smiles, there existed a much darker reality, one filled with pain, paranoia, betrayal, and a desperate search for love and acceptance. This is the untold story of Michael Jackson, the struggles, the scandals, and the secrets that haunted the king of pop until his final breath. Before the fame, before the moonwalk, before the controversies, there was a little boy, a shy, gifted child with an angelic voice. Born in 1958 in Gary, Indiana, Michael Joseph Jackson was thrust into the world of show business at an age when most children were playing outside, without a care in the world. His father, Joe Jackson, was a ruthless man, a strict disciplinarian who believed that greatness could only be forged through pain. He pushed his sons, especially Michael, to perform with perfection that was almost impossible for a child to achieve. Michael, the youngest member of the Jackson 5, quickly became the group's biggest star, but his success came at a price. While other kids went to school, played in parks, and enjoyed sleepovers, Michael spent his childhood in recording studios and on tour buses. His father, determined to shape him into a superstar, ruled with an iron fist, often resorting to physical and emotional abuse. He would sit in a chair with a belt in his hand. Michael once revealed in an interview, and if you didn't do it the right way, he would tear you up, really get you. The world saw a charming, energetic child prodigy. But behind the scenes, Michael was a lonely boy who longed for a normal life. The constant pressure, the harsh discipline, and the lack of childhood freedom planted the first seeds of insecurity and isolation that would follow him for the rest of his life. As Michael transitioned from a child star to a solo artist, he began to change not just in his music, but in his appearance as well. In the early 1980s, he stunned the world with the release of Thriller, an album that shattered records and made him the most famous entertainer on the planet. But even as the world celebrated his success, Michael was battling something deeper, a war with his own reflection. It started subtly, a nose job here, a chin reshaping there. But soon, the changes became impossible to ignore. His skin, once a rich brown, grew lighter. His facial features became sharper, more delicate, almost unnatural. For years, the media speculated wildly. Was he ashamed of his African-American roots? Was he deliberately trying to erase his identity? Michael denied the rumors, insisting that he suffered from vitiligo, a skin disorder that causes loss of pigmentation. And while vitiligo was real, there was another undeniable truth. Michael was desperately trying to reshape himself into an image of perfection that existed only in his mind. The childhood abuse, the constant criticism from his father, and the relentless scrutiny from the media had shattered his self-esteem. The little boy who had once been told he was too ugly and had a big nose was now a man obsessed with changing everything he saw in the mirror. But no matter how much he transformed his face, the insecurities never faded. In 1993, the world was stunned when a 13-year-old boy accused Michael Jackson of sexual abuse. For the first time, the king of pop, who had always been adored as a gentle, childlike soul, found himself at the center of a media storm. The details were chilling. The boy, Jordan Chandler, claimed that Michael had molested him at Neverland Ranch, his fairy tale-like home filled with amusement park rides and zoo animals. Michael denied everything, insisting that he was simply a man who never had a childhood, someone who felt more comfortable around children, because he had never been allowed to be a child himself. But the damage was done. Even though he settled the lawsuit out of court for over $23 million, many believed this was an admission of guilt. Others saw it as an act of desperation, a move to avoid an ugly, drawn-out trial. Then, in 2005, the nightmare resurfaced. Another boy, Gavin Arvizo, accused him of abuse. This time, Michael went to trial, facing the possibility of 20 years in prison. For months, the world watched as the king of pop fought for his life in a courtroom battle that was as bizarre as it was heartbreaking. In the end, he was acquitted of all charges. But even though the law declared him innocent, the court of public opinion was far less forgiving. The damage to his reputation was irreversible. By 2009, Michael was planning his final comeback, a spectacular tour called This Is It, meant to remind the world why he was still the king. But behind the scenes, he was a shadow of his former self. The years of stress, lawsuits, and scrutiny had taken their toll. He suffered from insomnia, anxiety, and chronic pain. To cope, he relied on an arsenal of prescription drugs, many of which were dangerously strong. His personal doctor, Dr. Conrad Murray, was tasked with keeping him healthy. But instead of helping him, he gave him propofol, a powerful anesthetic used in hospitals, something no normal person should ever be taking at home. On June 25, 2009, Michael Jackson was found unconscious in his bed. Despite attempts to revive him, the king of pop was gone. The world was shocked, heartbroken, and confused. How could the greatest entertainer of all time, someone who had survived decades of fame, scandal, and scrutiny, die so suddenly? Dr. Conrad Murray was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter, but for many, questions still lingered. Was Michael's death truly accidental? Or was it the final chapter of a long, tragic story of betrayal, manipulation, and broken dreams? Even in death, Michael Jackson remains one of the most controversial figures in music history. To some, he was a musical genius, a tortured soul who was misunderstood by the world. To others, he was a deeply troubled man, forever haunted by the demons of his past. But one thing is undeniable: he changed the world. From Billie Jean to Smooth Criminal, from the moonwalk to the legendary Super Bowl performance, his influence will never fade. And yet, one question remains. Was Michael Jackson truly the villain that the world made him out to be? Or was he just another victim of the brutal, unforgiving machine called Hollywood? The truth, much like the man himself, is still a mystery.